decided to change my camera location because y'all couldn't really see what I was doing when my tripod was kindly behind me. So I put the camera in front of me this time. I'm making dinner rolls. An enriched bread contains more sugar than rustic bread, and it has egg, milk, and butter. Most home cooks prefer to make enriched bread because the ingredients are measured by volume rather than weight. This is 3 3/4 cups of AP flour, 1/3 cup of sugar, and 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to mix this up and add my yeast. One package of active dry yeast. This recipe calls for 1/2 cup of milk and 1/2 cup of water, both of which should be heated to 110 degrees. I'm going to put the milk and water in the microwave on the beverage setting. I'm going to use my bread machine, and I'm going to set it to mix and first rise. The liquid is at 133 degrees. I'm going to pour it into this cool bread pan. I need 1 egg, lightly beaten. I need 1/3 cup of butter softened. I have cut my butter into pieces. I cut it in half long ways, turn it over, and cut it in half again. That creates these perfect little 1/2-inch dice size pieces. And these go into the liquid. I separate them as I put them in the liquid, and that hot milk water mixture is going to help soften this butter even more and make it easier on the machine to mix up. Now I'll test the liquid temperature again. It's cooled down to 97 degrees, so it's time to put in the flour mixture. Now I'm going to pre-mix this flour and water a little bit. And I have to stand up for this. Now it goes into the bread machine. Now I'm going to set my cycle. Blow this up so you can see what I'm doing. First rise, start. For the next hour and 40 minutes, I would be making the stuffing. I have a 1/4 cup of butter here that I've melted in the microwave. I put it on the time cook setting and set it for 10 seconds. And it's not 100% melted. There's still, a little bit of a chunk in there. You want to melt it and let it cool off. Fully melted butter has milk solids and water that is separating from the fat, and you don't want that. When the dough is exposed to water and heat, it breaks down and gets mushy. You'll get a seam open up in your roll if your butter is hot or has water separating from the fat. The best butter to use to dip your dough in before you bake it is a high-fat content butter like Kerrygold, clarified butter, or ghee. This is what my dough looks like coming out of the bread machine. and I'm going to degas it and turn it out of the pan onto the board. No flour on your surface. Enriched dough doesn't need flour. Every time I use my bread machine, I remove the paddle when I remove the dough or the bread. And I put it in water. You need a glass pan with tall sides for these rolls. This is non-negotiable. These rolls are gonna proof and they're gonna get real tall, and when they bake, they're gonna get taller. You don't have to roll this bread, just pull pieces off of it, weigh them. I need 2 ounces per roll, and I'm gonna dip them in butter before I put them in the pan. I got my dough all weighed out. Now it's time to roll them. 1 hand for rolling, 1 hand for dipping. Take a dough ball and you squeeze it back together. All that dough that I ripped off and used to weigh with, I want that dough incorporated into the ball. Use 1 hand for this, don't use both hands. I'm going to set the dough down on the board. I'm going to form a claw with my fingers and my thumb. I'm going to apply pressure on the dough and turn it and roll it into a ball at the same time. You want to apply pressure with your palm. When you get a nice tight roll, it'll look like this on the bottom. And there's the top of your roll. And if you have a little pointy end like that, just push it down. I'm going to roll it again. Now dip your other hand into the butter. Transfer the dough ball into the other hand and very gently roll it around in your hand to get it coated with butter. And then put it in the tray. And repeat that step with all of your other dough balls. If you've got a seam that's open too much, close it. Just pinch it back together. And then roll it with the butter on it. It's okay to do this because you can wipe the butter off your board. It'll be fine. But it'll close that seam. I'll show you again. I've got a piece starting to open right here. I'm going to pinch it closed. And roll it again. And now it's closed. Now I'm going to cover these with a towel and let them proof. And a trick is to heat your towel in the dryer or heat it up with a handheld blow dryer to get it good and warm, and that'll help your dough rise. You could also put it in a warm oven that you've turned on and then turned off and just close the door. You can put it in that warm oven that'll function as a proofing oven. I have a small metal tray here that I've lined with parchment. I'm going to roll out the rest of this dough and put it on that parchment lined tray and freeze it. This is a dough ball with a little bit of dry skin on it where it sat out in the air and started to dry out on the surface. I'm gonna coat my hand with butter, close the seam with my buttered hand. And then I'm going to use the buttered hand to roll it out again. It helps if the tray has been kept in the freezer and it's cold, and when you put the dough balls on it, the cold will stop them from proofing. This little 1 ounce roll here is going to be a Scooby snack, otherwise known as a chef's treat. And I'm going to put it in one of these little tart pans to bake it. And anytime you want to bake an individual roll, you can use a tart pan for that. Now I'm going to take my buttered hand and scoop out what's left of the butter in this bowl and put it in my little silicone melting cup. Now this tray of rolls is going in the freezer. My rolls are done proofing, and I'm going to take my scissors and score them. If they stick up a little, just mash them down a little bit. Now I have some melted butter in my little silicone cup, and I'll get real close I like using this method because the milk fat solids and the water are down on the bottom and the fat is floating on top. You want to be gentle when you brush your rolls. I like to do this while my oven's preheating. I'm going to melt some more butter for brushing the tops after they come out of the oven, because all I have left are milk solids, water, and just a little bit of fat. I want to point out something on these portable propane ovens. You see those two slits on either side? Your heat is going to come up on the side of the oven through those slits, but you've got this burner and a slit right in the middle, and that's where the flame is, and I believe that's what burned my rolls the last time. So I've got a trick for that. I'm going to put aluminum foil over that burner and leave those side burners exposed so the heat can come up the side, and hopefully my rolls won't get burned this time. See, a tall pan will not fit on the top rack in this oven because it's too tall. I can put a cookie sheet on the top rack. I have to put these tall pans on the bottom rack, and it's too close to the flame. So I hope my aluminum foil trick will work. This mini roll is going into the electric oven at 400 degrees. I'm going to say 10 minutes because it's a smaller roll. The mini roll was indeed done after 10 minutes. And I'm going to brush it with melted butter. My standard size rolls are still in the propane oven, but I'm going to go ahead and try this mini roll and see how it turned out. This is what the bottom looks like. And this is the top. Yeah, these are good. This is what the inside looks like. That was the timer on the other rolls. It's been 20 minutes. So now I'm going to check them. I'm going to rotate these to make sure they get evenly browned, because the last rolls I made didn't get brown evenly. So I'm going to turn them around like this. But so far they look okay. So I'm gonna set my timer for another 15 minutes and see how they turn out. I'm taking these rolls out after 10 minutes. This is what my rolls look like. They turned out perfect. I'll show you the bottom. My aluminum foil trick worked. Now I'm gonna brush them with butter. Now I'm going to put these on a cooling rack in the cold room. These dough balls are frozen, and I'm going to transfer them into quart-sized freezer bags. Well, they fit into one bag, and they're going back in the freezer. I'm going to show you all how to flip these rolls out of the pan and keep them neat. You take one cooling rack, and put it on top of the pan. Now flip the pan over, holding the cooling rack onto the pan. Now lift the pan up. Take your other cooling rack and hold it not too tight, and then flip. And there you go, perfect rolls. It works on a long pan too. I just had to butter one of these rolls and try it. This is what they look like. There's the top, the bottom, the sides. I got a corner piece. This is what it looks like on the inside. Of course, I got butter on it. They're delicious. I was afraid they had overproofed because they didn't rise as much as the other ones I made, but they're still good. See, there's a piece without butter. Now I'm going to show y'all the difference. These are the rolls I made last time that got burnt on the bottom. The middle roll is the worst one. I was able to cut the bottom off and toast them in my electric oven, and they were perfectly fine. But the perfectionist in me wasn't satisfied with burnt rolls. Okay, so I made a new batch that turned out perfect. But you can see how much shorter the new rolls are versus the original rolls. These rolls proofed perfectly and they rose. These did not. And the crumb is a little different. The crumb on the new rolls is a little tighter than the crumb on the original rolls, but that's okay. These rolls are still edible. They're just not pretty. And you wouldn't want to serve that to a guest. If you have one of those camp ovens, I highly recommend putting a sheet of aluminum foil in the bottom of it. You'll be glad you did.